ikhuzele kuku esuthi suthi suthe ikhwele phezu kwethu ikhuzele kuku akhuzi tu siyajulukela akhuzi tu siyajulukela
I'm Admore Xolani Tshuma, a former journalist in Zimbabwe. Currently, I'm working for a major university in the UK here. I work as a senior lecturer at the University of Kent and Essex University. I teach social policy, public policy. I'm also working on a project which I'll be presenting on the 29th at the United Nations. That project, I'm being funded by a South African organization to go and make that presentation. And I was talking to Mr. Tobe yesterday to say, I'm tempted to tell the United Nations about Gukurahundi massacres. And definitely I'll do that. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the idea of this organization is a very noble idea. I left Zimbabwe almost 15 years ago, came into this country, graduated with my PhD at the University of Bristol. But I've got a story that I want to tell you. The story is about my experience as a journalist. I worked for the Chronicle, the most hated newspaper at the moment. We used to call it, when I first joined the Chronicle in the 1990s, it was known as the nation's liveliest paper. But when I joined the Chronicle, I came across with files of stories which were written by the former editor, Jeffrey Nyarota. One of the stories, Jeffrey Nyarota actually said, Ndebeles must be disciplined. Ndebeles must be disciplined. This was the time when Robert Mugabe had come to a point whereby he wanted to withdraw the 5th Brigade from Matabeleland. After the Daily Mail of the UK had actually published a story about the massacres, Jeffrey Nyarota, who is now known as the best journalist ever to occur to our country, he was given a Harvard scholarship, fellowship, Harvard for 10 years for being the best journalist. I'm going to explain this why. Now, I came across with a lot of stories that the media actually colluded. And can I tell you one thing? In 1998, I was assigned by my news editor to go and cover, to do what is called a Matabeleland North Roundup. We went to Cholocho. When we went to Cholocho, I was in the company of my photographer, who was the late Zibusiso Nyoni, Zibusiso Ndlovu. Unfortunately, he's late. May his soul rest in peace. We met the chief executive of the council. I vividly remember that very well. His name was Nyoni. I did a story which he gave me. He lost his job because of that story. And that story was about Gukurahundi. I'm going to tell you this. The information minister by then was Chena Mochimutengwende. I did a story from Cholocho post office using a telex to say 4 mass graves have been identified in Cholocho. And neighbors or villagers are saying people in those mass graves were victims of the 5th Brigade. Now, when I went to the office the following morning, the story had been badly decapitated. It wasn't my story, it was a different story. The story had been changed. I asked the news editor, whose name was Makuwerere Bwititi. And what happened is, in the morning, the news editor called me to his office and said, Admore, your story was changed because if we had published the story as it was, there was going to be a civil war. The story was changed completely. I was naive, I just joined Chronicle. I didn't know anything about editorial policy. I didn't know anything. I didn't know that there was a standing policy that non-Ndebele person journalist should be editor of the Chronicle. Let me tell you one thing, I don't to say, the only person who changed that policy was Jonathan Moyo. He said, I remember the day he changed it. Although he's a controversial character, most of you know that. He's very controversial. Some say he's more ZANU-PF than Robert Mugabe, but at the same time, we don't know who he is. Perhaps the Honorable Mzila can tell us. He was, now, the following morning, let me tell you one thing. I got a call from the switchboard at the Chronicle. The switchboard operator said, Admore, there is a cabinet minister who wants to talk to you now. I said, who's that cabinet minister? He said, Admore, come on. He wants to talk to you now. Then I said, okay, put him through. He came to the newsroom. I said, hello, Admore speaking. How can I help? He said, he spoke to me, Ishona. Konti Admore yereye. I said, oh yes, who's that? He said, Uruta Rana Minister Panap. Do you know what he said to me? He said, I've just read your story. He said, listen, you should know where your bread is buttered. It is an allegation that the 50th Brigade killed Ndebele people. That I can stand in a court of law and remind Shena Mochimutekwele. He said it's an allegation. Let me tell you one thing. I got confused as a young journalist because when we arrived in Cholocho, we met this woman, old woman. Because I had actually sourced my story to the chief executive, Nyoni. This woman, I remember when she was sitting in a yard, when I identified myself as a journalist, she said, Mtanami, I don't trust you. Before the 50th Brigade came in, it was people driving cars like yours who would come in first, and then the 50th Brigade comes in, they kill us. He said, I said, Mama, when she heard that I was speaking fluent in Ndebele, she said, can you see that pit play toilet there? Go there, I'll meet you there. I could see tears rolling. She looked at me close to 5 minutes. I could see tears rolling. When we went to the pit play toilet, as I'm saying, I was naive. Zibosiso was an experienced photographer. Zibosiso said, Admore, this is a mass grave in the yard. Then Zibosiso started taking pictures. Up to now, the pictures of those mass graves, they're still there in the archives of the Chronicle, but they were never published. And the woman followed us. She said, Danami, do you know who is here? I said to my mom. Then I was really becoming human as well. He said, my eldest son is here, my second born is here, my third born is here, their 2 wives are here, and their 2 children are here. I almost cried. And then here is a cabinet minister the following morning telling me that it's an allegation against the 50th Brigade. I felt sad and also confused. And the editor of the Chronicle, who was Stephen Pofu, was on leave. The duty editor was Jonathan Mapenduga. Jonathan Mapenduga called me and said, Admore, you know our story. You want me to lose my job? I said, yes, sir, you did a good job. That's the case. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to say to you is that Robert Mugabe and the administrative machinery that actually presided over the 50th Brigade is prosecutable because they committed systematic crimes against humanity. This was a violation of the Geneva Convention, Additional Protocol of 1977, which states that if you send an army to a particular, whether troubled area, and that army happens to target civilians, you have committed systematic crimes against humanity. And let me tell you something. The issue of the 50th Brigade was not only to exterminate, eliminate the Ndebeles. It was a socio-economic genocide which was designed to denigrate, to lower, to misrecognize people of the Ndebele origin. This was the idea of it was socio-economically, It was designed to make you feel inferior. Look here, if you look at the UK here, I'm in a network of Zimbabwean academics in this country. The best technologist at a British university here is Ndebele academic from Zeligazi. We would not have got that opportunity if we had stayed in Zimbabwe. This made us, Kokura Hundi made us feel less inferior. We were told that our children are good in jumping border to work in South Africa to border jumpers. We were told that our children were less intelligent than Shonas. Can I make a suggestion to you? My time is running up. I want to make a suggestion that Mugabe is prosecutable. We need a truth commission that will be presided over by an archbishop, a neutral archbishop. That we need to tell our story. Our story has been told by others for a very, very long time. We need to tell our story. This is a serious story. This is a serious thing, ladies and gentlemen. If I ask myself, if we don't sort out things now, what kind of Zimbabwe are we going to hand over to our grandchildren? My son, at some point, when I went to Zimbabwe, he asked me a question. He was 9 years old. He said, Dad, so our grandchildren, they will still ask us, what did we do? Can I make a suggestion in terms of a philosophical approach to transitional justice? Shona people benefited from the persecution of Ndebele people. And therefore, what we need to, we shouldn't be ashamed of that, ladies and gentlemen. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. We should talk about it. What if Emmerson Mnangagwa, who unfortunately is a perpetrator, if he is serious about reparative justice in Matabeleland, every obsessively rich Shona should pay a solidarity tax. That solidarity tax should be a kind of a pool fund to develop Matabeleland. Matabeleland is underdeveloped because of the principle of 50th Brigade. The 50th Brigade was kind of a multi-dimensional agenda, pre-planned agenda to exterminate, to destroy, to... That is why it was so, it's in-depth. Let me tell you one thing. Can I say this? Please don't feel offended. I'm going to say something which is very serious. Look at in the 1990s, and 1980s, 1990s, even early 2000s, every single, no, let me not say this, people will misconnect. Shona men set an agenda to go and make children in Matabeleland. Because they wanted to destroy and dilute the Ndebele tribe. That was their agenda. That was their agenda. This is in-depth, guys. I wish I had more time. Unfortunately, I don't have more time, really. But what I want to say is that as a result of the 50th Brigade, there was a misrecognition of the Ndebele people, and which resulted in the maldistribution of resources. For example, I worked for the Chronicle. The Chronicle would make more money than the Herald. But the reporter who is in the same level with me at the Herald will be getting much more money than me. The Chronicle was actually, at my time, not by now, because they are nothing now, at my time, used to subsidize the Herald. This is how sad. This is a very depressing story. And once again, before I conclude, I'm so much indebted to Mr. Mzila. Mr. Mzila contributed to what I am today, and I wouldn't be a senior lecturer at the UK State Best University. It's because of people like them. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a very fundamental question.